Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest Straight Up Hangout. This week we are doing a code review, another code review, with Matt Stein of Working Concept. He'll be sharing with us a plugin he wrote called Taggregate, which is used to optimize tag clouds on a site he was working on. Also with us we have Brandon Kelly from Pixel and Tonic and Andrew Welch from NY Studio 107. I'm Ben Friesen from Barrel Strength Design, and let's just quickly review what a code review is. Oh, and we have Marion Newlevant from Oregon. Hi, Marion. Welcome.
Hello. Let me see what I look like.
We're just getting started here. So, the code reviews are meant to help everybody in the community who's working with Craft and Craft plugins, front-end templates, websites, to improve their code, improve what they're doing. If you're interested in joining us for a code review, drop me a note, and we'll have a form on Straight Up Craft to submit a request to join them in the future. Right now, just drop me a note on Slack or via the website. Yes, so we'll be looking at code. I guess I'm going to hand stuff off to Matt Stein here so he can give us an overview of his plugin and get us into doing that.
Cool. Thank you. Should I share my screen probably?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So,
tell us a little bit about your background, Matt?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. So my background's in design, graphic design, and I've been masquerading as a designer-developer for doing my solo thing for about 5-6 years or something. I got to work with really great developers at one point in a small studio, and so I'm used to critiques, used to design critiques, and I'm used to having people scrutinize, naming things and having nice interfaces and commenting. And the place I'm at right now in terms of writing stuff is I can write very clean code that makes sense and it's reasonable and it's tabbed, not spaced very neatly. But design-wise,
you just opened a can of worms.
I know. No. I set it on the side of the table. I'm talking though, Andrew.
There goes a half hour of the show.
Let's focus. So the place that I'm at right now is I'm starting to get a better, more than just trying to write clean code. I'm starting to learn how things work, and hopefully introduce a little bit more intelligent design of the stuff I'm building. But I'm just at that point where I'm starting to figure out how things hopefully with good form move on to making smarter decisions. So I'm kind of familiar with software design patterns, and I'm familiar with the concept of writing good software. The practice, however, for me is lacking. So this specific plugin that I wanted to look at is called Taggregate. The goal of Taggregate is very, very simple. It's to be able to create a tag cloud with a Craft template very easily. Not because I make them a lot. It actually came up in a Stack Exchange question, and it's been bugging me ever since because I couldn't figure out a great way to do it. So I have this plugin. I guess I can share my screen. It's probably not all that fun watching me talk about it. What I have is really, really simple plugin that I have posted on GitLab. And what it does is gives us a Taggregate model, which is basically just extending the tag model.
And could you increase your font size a few?
I can. Thanks for mentioning that.
Maybe you got good resolution.
There we go.
Okay. So I have a really crappy site that I made. I've created entries that are Bluetooth characters, and I've given them tags to represent them, and I just have this work. It's terrible, a terrible example, but you get the idea. It's a tag cloud.
I kind of feel like you stole the design from somewhere.
I did. I don't want to say where. I don't want to say where. It's not necessarily my work, but so basically just showing a cloud of words where the scale, if you're unfamiliar with a tag cloud and I don't know, didn't make it through the 90s or something, it's just showing words that are scaled proportionally to the number of times that they're used. So this is all we're hoping to create. And what I needed to be able to do that was getting not only a list of tags, but then the number of times that they're used. So the whole purpose for this plugin is to get tags and find out how many times they're used and assign a scale to them, so that in my template I can have something really simple like
bigger.
Guys, I'm freaking out. Command plus doesn't. Just a second.
Shift plus maybe.
Also negative. Good thing I practiced for this.
It's amazing how many developers try to innovate on this hotkey.
Well, wait a minute. If that's
How have I never done this?
If that's Sublime, it should just be Command plus.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I promise it's not working. It's probably my Markdown thing. So let me.
No, it does. I'm doing it right now in a Markdown file.
Well, I'll show you my actual template for this. Awesome.
My God.
Is that big enough? Let's just. Here we go. So this is that fabulous Bluethton site, and what I'm doing is getting tag entries, related tags to these characters, and then I feed it a minimum scale and a maximum scale, so that it's something I can just plug into this cloud. And right now I have just like an inline style that is used to scale this thing, and that's how I end up getting scale for these. So basically, I've created this. It works, and it's not very performant. So this is something that back in 2014 on Stack Exchange, I had posed, and Brandon, after I put a bounty on the question, Brandon said that this is just horrible in terms of performance, right? So it's convenient, and as far as templating goes, it creates the interface that I was hoping for, which is something pretty clean and straightforward. But that, as we get more and more tags, it's just really, really inefficient, and as Brandon put it, it's horribly inefficient and could easily take a site down. So the thing that I've been stuck on, or I guess the things that I would love to know are, A, and just in general, what's successful and unsuccessful about the plugin. Just whether it's stylistic. I know that Selvin had mentioned the version number, something we discussed a little bit earlier. That Mr. John Wells had pointed out that in my service, I'm making 2 calls to queries, so I get both related entries and then a related entries count, which is kind of a performance issue.
Maybe before we get into the recommendations, you can give us a tour of the code.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Matt, if I could just say something real quick, I think you created a very successful DDoS tool. Right? Like Brandon, you can take us right down, so you created a nice little denial of service tool.
That's right, from the inside. That's the thing.
Whoa. That's the next level.
So basically, like all of my plugins, this one's really simple. We have a name, version, developer, URL. Most of the work is done in this service. So this is the Taggregate service, is where I'm getting related tags and basically tallying uses, and then returning stuff that gets piped through a variable to our template. So I guess maybe starting at the variable is a useful point. The variable is the thing that is accessible to me in a template. So when I am saying craft Taggregate related tags, that is directly referencing this, and then I'm passing options into it, which are the entries themselves, the order that I want, which is by used count, which is something I'm making up, and then min scale and max scale, which is just my way of saying I want to get a number back that's scaled proportionally to the number of uses, and I want it to be between 1 and 5. So I did actually use math for this. But so this is where I'm passing in my options, and just passing these things, splitting out the entries, and then passing them into this get related tags. So that's where I'm calling the service. The service, of course, being the thing that is basically doing all the work, and that I can pass the results back through a variable, or access them through a variable in the template. Get related tags is basically the only thing that's doing work here. So I start out just initializing a few variables that I'm going to use just to store uses of each tag. Is this useful, or am I just taking forever to explain the obvious?
That's good.
Okay. So we have element criteria, which is, of course, the magical thing that lets us specify elements that we'd like to find. I'm getting entries that are related to the ones that I passed in. I don't have to worry about any of the magic. I just know that I'm getting entries related, or tags specifically related to the entries that I passed into this. For each one, then, I loop through and I create this new Taggregate model. Taggregate model is just a really simple extension of the tag model that already exists, which means that I'm taking all the attributes that already exist and then I'm tacking on used count, which is the number of times that tag is used, the entries themselves that are related to that tag, and then that magical scale number. So for each tag, I'm creating a new Taggregate model. I'm basically populating it again with the original attributes of the tag, or the content that came with the tag that I'm looping through. Not sure if this is super efficient, but I'm going to just power through. And then I've got used count and entries, and I'm setting those with two methods that I've created that are further down, where, again, I'm just calling relationships and returning them. Once for the count, and then once again for the entries. So I'm doing that, and this is a really great way. I think this is where I'm really giving you the ability to take the site down if we have enough tags, because I limited at, I think, 9,999 in my template. Or I'm sorry, 999. Anyway, so I'm looping through those. I'm assigning uses. I do some questionable math just to assign a scale. So since I did work with developers, I don't avoid using magic. I label it as such so that a real developer could look at this and maybe laugh and then fix it. And then I have sorting that I'm doing in a interesting way, where I'm basically just looking for this string.
A request to increase your font size if you can.
Still, all right. I'm like deeply uncomfortable looking at this so big, but I realize the goal is for
still pretty.
else.
Yeah, you might want to go a little larger.
It's not about you, Matt.
User interface design.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, the way that I'm handling sorting. So when I'm talking about sorting, I'm talking specifically about I'm passing in an order, so the order that I want to get these tags back in. So maybe I want my cloud to be, like it is, where the most used tag shows up larger and first, or maybe I want to sort them alphabetically or something like that. So this is where I'm taking order and I'm just looking for certain terms. That's what the string position is. It basically just tells me where used count appears in my order string, and if it's not false or if it actually exists somewhere, then I assume that we've got that to work with. So I parse that for direction. Anyway, we can sort on used count, on title, on date created, on date updated, and that's it. Again, I'm not sure if this is horribly efficient. It works. And when I say efficient, I guess I mean smart. It's pretty efficient. And then basically I have a comparison, so I can compare the number of times something's used, which is how I do sort. And then more methods for comparing titles and date created and everything, just to support these sorts. I think that's pretty much the whole thing. And this is currently released in version 0.1 because I'm pretty sure performance-wise it's terrible, even though it does work. And that's where I'm at.
Okay. So what did I say in the response? I mean, I'm curious.
I can read it to you.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just read this out loud.
So this is this is freshly out of 2014. You had said basically And I actually get this, and I struggled with this some time before abandoning it for about 2 years.
Make it bigger so the words hurt more.
This is what my dreams look like. In 2014, again, after I put a bounty on this question, I basically said, here's what I'm doing. Here's the problem with it. I don't know what I'm doing. And Brandon had said, okay, so let's stop worrying about how templating works. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Computing this data every time we're requesting it is really inefficient.
Right.
So there needs to be a better way to do this.
Horribly inefficient.
Horribly.
He did. Horribly inefficient. And there's nothing worse than paraphrasing something that everybody else is reading too. Because now you can critique.
We know what you're leaving out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's basically the gist of the problem here. Is like you mentioned like in a specific function like this is actually pretty efficient. Yeah. Okay. Maybe 2 lines of your PHP code are efficient, but if they get called 4,000 times, it's not that efficient. Things get slowed down through the repetition. So basically, yeah, the gist is you need to find a way to know what the count is, like in the same database query as the tags are getting fetched, and not by having SQL do a bunch of work, just having it exist in the database, which means whenever an entry is saved, you're updating some cache of tag counts in the database somewhere. And it's okay at that point, like you save an entry, it has 3 tags on it. It's okay at that point to do some, calculate the new totals of each of those 3 tags across all entries just to be safe, kind of thing. You could do that rather than just +1ing it, or you can +1 it, and that'd be even faster. But yeah, the main point is you need to have a way to have the database be the one that already knows what the tag count is.
Well, and that's kind of where I got stuck because of the nature of, I mean, this could be a dynamic query, so that's where I got stuck.
So for that, and that's a good point. So for that, I think that what you'd want to do is have a way to define, like, maybe tag sets. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, because like a single tag might have multiple counts associated with it, right? If you've got one single tag set and you're using a news section and a blog section, because you have both for whatever reason, and you want to do tag counts that are scoped to just news or scoped to just blog or portfolio, maybe it's a better option, news and portfolio. That means that in the database you actually got to store 2 separate tag counts for that single tag. So probably the best way to do it would be have a config file in your, give your plugin a custom config file. The way to do that is simply you can create a new file within your config folder with the plugin's handle. So in this case, what is it? Tag Cloud? Is that what it's called?
Taggregate, yeah.
What is it?
Taggregate.
Taggregate, that's right. So taggregate.php inside your config folder. In your actual Taggregate plugin, you can have a config.php, which defines all the defaults, which in this case would basically be a single array. Let's call it, tag clouds, and set it to an empty array. And the idea would be, I guess, someone could create this taggregate.php file in their config folder, have it return an array that has a taggregate or a tag cloud subkey, and there they could just kind of list an array of element criteria parameters. So basically so either tag cloud or tag sets or whatever. Basically, you could do one called news. Maybe the key is news, and it gets set to some criteria parameters like section equals news kind of thing. And then what you could do is you could, every time an entry is saved, you could just loop through all of those tag sets that you've got in your settings, and for each one, check to see if the entry that's being saved matches any of them. So basically, loop through them all for each individual tag set, get the criteria, and then add one more thing to it, which is ID. So add add to the criteria ID equals and then the current entry being saved, and then check to see what the total results are. If it's 1, then you know that the entry matched all the other parameters as well, and so it's included. If it's 0, then you know that this criteria doesn't apply to this particular entry. I see. And so for each one that matches, then you would loop. You would already have your array of tags, so you'd loop through those, and for each one you would do a database query saying, update tag sets, or there's actually you'd have to check to see if it already exists, I guess. We have an insert or update function that we make available where basically, like, if you have a database table, you can say, based on the keys, like if the key would be tag set and another key would be tag ID, you could say insert or update in the tag sets table where the tag set handle is news and the tag ID is 5, and the value of the tag count would be either +1 or 1 if it's a brand new row kind of thing.
Is that something you do in a background task that you'd queue up just in case?
I think it would be fast enough. It would be fast enough to do on save. It would not be significant. Probably not a good idea to try and live code this, but if you want, we could. But just as a high level, that's kind of my theory. My thinking is, like, you just want to have a way to define your different tag sets, and then you'd want to, loop through every single one of them on entry save, see which ones filter in, update the tag count for each tag at that point, and then from your templates, you would actually, like, when you're fetching tags, you would have a way to specify, and I specifically want the tag count per this tag set kind of thing.
I see. But basically, define your indexes to start rather than
exactly. So basically, that's the end goal. Is, like, have it so that when you get around to the template being executed, all of the data is already known. It's just a matter of selecting which parts of it to get. And then also, like, as far as, like, how to do the templating tag stuff, I don't know. I think it was both in Craft 2.5 and Craft 2.6. We've made a lot of improvements to the plugin's ability to get involved in element queries. So one thing you could do is you could actually get rid of your entire template variable, and in your plugin you could just have an event listener for the element service on build element query or something like that. I forget what it's called. But basically, at that point, you could be checking the criteria parameters, and if a certain thing is set, you can modify the query before it gets executed. And so, in your case, you could check to see if, like, someone has entered a custom, tag cloud : and then some, tag cloud parameter or something like that. And if they've set that, then you could modify the query to join in your tag cloud table with the given, with a condition to limit it to just the rows where, where the tag cloud handle is news or whatever.
Where would I get those additional?
You would just basically, like, support it as a custom criteria parameter. So
right, but right now, like, I'm using Taggregate model just to tack on scale in the number of uses of that tag. If I okay, so that's where you put the data. Okay, well, so another option would be you do keep using a variable, but the only point of the variable is to I have to look through the code. There's got to be a way to do it to basically modify what you get as a result.
I have an alternate suggestion. Oh, go ahead, Ben, if you have something to say.
Go over. I kind of wanted to throw in an alternate to compare as well. So
sure.
Maybe.
Well, so I think one of the ways we see this done in some scenarios is you'll have, say, Taggregate or whatever plugin would create a second table, and it'd have a few columns, and it would just keep track of the tags and the IDs or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then some other metadata that's necessary. So you might keep this. If we were doing this just for the entries element, we could have a section ID and a tag ID, and then you would have kind of created a set of data that you could query directly and count and maybe there'd still be 9,000 entries, but you're only querying one table. Now you're not dealing with as many loops, and you can do some caching of your result there.
I guess so. I guess my main thinking there is like second query works, but you know, like I'm not a fan of how you're doing like custom order support and stuff like that. Like MySQL is much better at ordering a bunch of entries than PHP is. And so I think ideally you'd be able to get this limited to a single query where, like, if you want best performance, it would be single query, the same query that's currently used to get the tags, but now it's also joining in the tag counts and it's, you know, the appropriate tag count that the template's specifying in the results, and then it's just using the built-in order by and all that kind of stuff. Like you're not doing anything special for that.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be comparable, just to tie it back to the code? When you create element types in Craft, the element type has a modify elements query method, and in that there's a very similar structure to what Matt had, where it kind of says if order, if whatever.
Yeah.
But then rather than doing a bunch of calculation right there, it actually modifies the query being passed to the database. So at the end of all the conditions, you have a
That's exactly what I'm saying would be the right way to go. So in addition to like giving element types a chance to modify that query, field types also have a chance to modify that query, and plugins have a way to just tag an event on there and modify the query as well. You know, so like however you want to get at it, like there's lots of ways to modify that query and read through the parameters set on the element criteria model and modify the query based on those if you want.
All right, so Matt, I'll give you the lazy man's approach, or coming at it kind of from a different angle. But, you know, in the end, what we're trying to do with caching is basically we're pre-flighting stuff, right? We want to do whatever hard math or hard searches or whatever. We want to do that kind of stuff ahead of time so that at request time it's quick, right? So you could go at it from the reverse angle where you could, whenever you get a result from your existing code the way that you have it, save a hash of the query that was passed in and just save the result in the cache. And then when the you know, you see the command again, or you know someone issues a front end request again, you compute the hash from the query they're sending in. You look it up in the cache. If it's there, return it. If it's not, you do it and then you cache it. And in that way, you would be saving all the data. And the other thing is, and the reason I was thinking about it is, it would be easier to retrofit that, and then also a lot of these tag pages, it tends to be the same thing that's appearing on there, right? So it's going to be like a very deterministic thing that appears on this page, and you can just easily cache that. Yeah.
Well, so the trick with that was kind of what occurred to me before, except the only benefit to that is instead of taking your site down every time somebody visits a tag page, is it's only once the first time they visit it, you know? So.
But you could also prime it. I mean, that's another thing you can do, is prime the cache in a task or something.
Yeah, that's true.
I would call that the duct tape solution.
I have an idea too.
That's true.
Well, what did I do then? That's like pre-duct tape.
What was your idea, Marian?
My idea is that you don't really need this data to be super current. It's okay if it's a little out of date, probably. So what I would think about doing is using that pre-parse field, putting a pre-parse field that's the count of how many times this tag is used right there on the tag. I think you can have fields on tags. And then just have a task that you run every so often that updates all of those fields, and then you could just search your tags, and the tag would come with it with the count.
That's actually a really good idea, because then you don't have to futz with getting the new attribute on the tag model or anything. It's already there because it's the pre-parse value.
Yeah, you stuck it there.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, actually, it wouldn't even need to be a pre-parse field, would it? It would just need to be a text field, because you're generating those counts. Oh, I mean, I guess like
You generate those counts.
The question on like what is like, you know, when you're running this cron job, let's say you're doing it every midnight or something, to update all the tag counts. Either the cron job itself is doing all the work of like figuring out what the appropriate tag counts are and updating the field value just directly, or all it's doing is saying resave all the tags, in which case the pre-parse field is doing the work of figuring out the counts.
Yeah, I was figuring it just saved all the tags.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like my thought is like as long as you've already got some code that's like resaving all the tags, you might as well just put that same, it'll execute faster in PHP than it would in pre-parse. So
it would, although I suppose the pre-parse could call in around to the PHP plugin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true.
Not to dumb it down, but if I'm following you right, Marion, you're saying add an actual field within the craft control panel to the tag, since we can add fields to anything, and kind of take the Andrew approach of just proactively storing the count in that tag, except that we're doing
populate that count somehow or other.
Yeah, that's a smart way.
And then it wouldn't be up to date all the time, but that's sort of the way of tag fields, is you don't expect them to be up to the minute.
Could you kick off like one of those tasks again, like on when entries are saved, rather than tying it to a cron job? Or is that?
Yeah, but then your server's just never going to stop having to update tag info. You would definitely want it to be a cron job that runs maybe like once a day, something like that. Which I agree with Marion. That's totally fine. Like no one's going to freak out when they save a new entry and they used this tag for the 23rd time and it didn't get a little bigger.
I think anybody.
Smaller.
Anybody with a mission critical tag cloud may be using specific software for that.
They can have a faster cron job then.
Congratulations, Matt. I think you're the first one that has ever used Mission Critical along with Tag Cloud. That's impressive.
Somebody at NASA right now is just like...
I wanted to also mention that in these other approaches, it's important to remember that when you save an entry, you might not have only added some tags, and you would know which tags you'd maybe added. You might have removed some tags. So you have to figure out which of all the tags out there you now have to subtract one from their count.
Yeah, true. That just adds more complexity.
If we'd like to look at a little code around this, I agree with Brandon. It might be getting too much to try to implement something like this, but maybe adding a record and a watcher for the on-entry save event and trying to save something to it would be a contained kind of example of how we would start approaching.
I think the other reason I really like Marion's approach is if you did implement a field type, you could have like a preview of it in the record. I mean, that would be kind of neat.
Well, in speaking practically too, I like Marion's approach because if I'm making a tag cloud with Arrested Development characters, odds are I'm not. I just want to make a tag cloud and I want it to work and move on. And I feel like I know how to set up fields in Craft, and there's something more straightforward as the person just downloading and using the plugin than creating, knowing what I want to index and updating a config or something like that. I think that's been the challenge for me, is trying to make it as unobtrusive and as easy to use as possible.
Well, so I mean, basically with this, you've got your plugin, if it's even a plugin, all it's doing is, fetching all the tags and resaving them. That's it. And you don't even have to use a plugin. You could just have some obfuscated file name on the, alongside index.php, but for simplicity, we'll call it, resave tags.php. And Craft makes it really easy to do like scripts, like to interact with Craft's APIs and stuff without being inside the scope of the plugin. So all you need to do is do app equals and then require .. /craft /apps /bootstrap.php, and now you've got a Craft instance, and then you can do app entries get all entries meeting a criteria and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And then basically, yeah, and it could actually be a background task just because there's already a resave elements task that makes it really easy to just resave a bunch of elements. So that would actually drastically, like all you'd have to do in your script is call app.tasks.createTask, pass in resave elements, comma, null, comma, and then like an array with, criteria saying, element type is tags, basically, and that's it. And then it will automatically do the rest.
And it could populate the field that.
Well, just by resaving the tag, it would automatically. If it's a preparse field, the preparse field. So for anyone watching that doesn't know what preparse is, it's this brilliant little field where the field settings has a big text area, and you get to type in a template code in the text area, and then basically whenever that element containing the field is saved, the template is rendered, and the result of the template is saved into the field's value. So, so in this context, you basically have just a template in there that all it does is say output, do like the print tags, the double curly brace, and then put, craft.entries.related to, this tag, dot total. And that's all you would have to output. And then basically whenever that tag is saved, that field's value is going to be however many entries are related to the current tag. And then that way you could actually have, if you want to do multiple tag sets, you just create multiple preparse fields. And each one, specifies entry criteria a little bit differently. And then whenever you fetch an entry, or whenever you fetch a set of tags, you're just already going to have those preparse field values on the tag.
So you should be able to order by that.
You could order by it. Yeah, it'll be a regular field value at that point. So you could order by it if you want, just based on whatever the preparse field value is. It'll already be on the tag model, so you don't have to extend tag model or anything like that. Yeah, that's a really, really nice solution there.
Could you even have craft.entries got tags.total in your preparse field, so every tag just stores the total of the tag that it is, and you just select distinct from the query or just select unique? I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, okay. Anything you want, you can put in there.
Yeah.
Some things might give you errors. But yeah. I think we should try live coding this right now. We've got time.
Do it.
Programming in Twig.
Matt, you want to share your screen?
I can.
Work, Matt.
Yep.
This was an amazingly simple solution. You just got to do it.
All right.
It's because real developers are lazy.
So before we throw out Matt's entire plugin, I do
it only made it to 0.1.
Yeah, it only made it. But I wanted to compliment. It's a beautiful structure, Matt. You've got clear division of labor going on, and
this is 2014, so this is pre Andrew's plugin whatever Yeoman thing.
Plugin factory, yeah. I did. Yeah, I tabbed this myself.
Wow. Yeah. So that is something that I wanted to comment on. My couple pedantic comments that I had were to add some of the 2.5 functions like get description, get documentation URL, get schema version, get releases feed, that type of thing. And also the 0.01 tilts the crap out of me. I just had to say that. That's all.
You want another 0 in there?
I want some.
Are you asking him to update this for the 2.5, 2.6 functions before deleting it?
Yeah, might as well.
I fixed it.
Your trash bin is better than that.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
No problem. So at the risk of this being just grading for anybody watching, what would you have me do? I mean, we talked about.
So I would say right-click on that craft-taggregate folder at the top.
Yeah.
Click delete.
Oh man.
Oh, it's grayed out.
Yeah, it's grayed out. No such thing. I can go to the Bluthden site if we want to work with that. I mean,
yeah. We're not gonna need this thing.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm copying the preparse field to you in Slack if you want to just grab it from
you.
there.
Yeah, first step would be installing that.
Give me just a second.
I feel bad we're having you delete your first plugin.
Here's the best way forward. Burn it down.
It's 2-year-old code. That's the best feeling in the world to delete 2-year-old code.
I hope you're not attached to it.
No, I'm not.
We've been doing this before we've confirmed our belief is true here.
So while I'm setting this up, I have a philosophical question, or maybe a question for each of you. You're thinking back to a younger developer self. You know, your hair is shorter, less facial hair, whatever it may be, and you're trying to figure out, like me, I would not have been able to think through all of these options. Yet I would want to. I mean, I'm sure that Brandon, you would always make yourself available on moment's notice for a hangout. Yeah. But if for some reason you're not available for that, as like a young developer trying to think my way through these things or explore options, where do you go, or how do you start to piece these things together? What advice would you give your past selves trying to figure these things out?
Talk to Marion.
Yeah, clearly the answer is to talk to Marion, but short of that, talk about your ideas in the plugin channel on Slack and just see if anyone comes up with a great idea for it.
I think this is part of...
Don't put yourself down. You know,
this
real developers are just mainly ego.
Yeah.
You just gotta fake it, which you're doing fine.
And I think that it's, you know, in order to be able to come up with a solution like Marion had, you have to fail like hundreds of times. You know what I mean? Like there's not a single person here that hasn't made a shit ton of mistakes, and it takes those failures to be able to come up with the right solution.
Now, notice we're not looking at my crap plugins.
Next month, Marion.
Okay.
Marion, your break and continue is like my most used crap plugin for the record.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
We could look at that to look at twig tokens. That would be a fun mystery
that would be,
to review.
It's nice and simple, but yeah.
I created my first twig token the other day, and I don't understand what I did. I copied from like 4 of the other tokens, and it just kind of works magically, and I don't understand the syntax or why it's working.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's a little complicated. You have to really understand the philosophy behind what like a lexer and parser is before you can fully dig in there.
That's for another hangout, Marion.
Yeah.
If you're open to that, I think it would be an interesting one.
Yeah, but like Marion said, you can copy someone else's code and fake it. You know, I mean, that's what I did.
So I've set this up if we want to continue. I have my site with one template, which is the cloud, which is this wonderful page. Oh, yeah, right. Thank you. I'm installing...
You can just disable Taggregate. You don't have to delete it.
That's very gentle of you, Marion. Thank you.
Well, it doesn't store any data. Why not just uninstall it?
I'll deal with that.
Disable it, then you uninstall it.
We need some closure.
Yeah.
We need closure. Just delete it.
That's right.
Delete it so it doesn't even show up. Just like you get rid of your ex-girlfriend's phone number, just delete it from your phone. Get rid of it entirely.
All right, I've done it. Taggregate is no longer here. My page now is an error, and we're going to make it better.
That's all right.
So we've got pre-parse.
Fails, and then okay.
So you'll find another one. Don't worry.
Keep reloading that page on every step.
And so I do want to point out that the only data we have here is really simple. We have a channel with characters. We'll use Frank Wrench. I've assigned tags to these people. If you're not already familiar with REST development, you should be.
But I think that Bob Oblo would be the more appropriate one here.
He could be. Let me just use Craft's wonderful search feature and
pull up. He does have a blog.
Okay. Let's see what that looks like. It's still broken. So, do you guys help me figure out what to do with this?
Yeah, so go to Settings, go to Fields, create a new field.
You need the pre-parse plugin.
We've installed it, I think.
Done that, okay.
Yeah. You've already got it. So call this, tag cloud, whatever you want to call it. And field type pre-parse. And remind me, what in the docs? How do you reference the current element for pre-parse. So,
what I always do is I say underbar context, pipe it through keys, pipe it through join, and I make that the value of the pre-parse token or pre-parse field, and then I can see what everything is that's possible. You want to join it with something, otherwise it'll run them all together. Join with a space.
Or dump. I guess you could do
Right,
dump.
and then turn it on so it's visible.
Oh, right. And you were.
Right.
Oh, I like that. So I'm saving this, and then I'm going to go to and then assigning it to the tag.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is basically a really long way of not looking at the documentation.
Entry is the variable they're using in an example.
Is it? Okay, so
it's like the current element's actual.
Oh,
I
wait.
saw the plugin there, Matt.
What's that? Oh, we did that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So now
assign it to your blog channel or whatever it is.
Assign it to your tag.
We want to assign it to the tag.
Yeah. Assign it to your tag.
And we're assigning it to the tag because every time an entry is saved with a tags relations field, the tags also get saved.
No, we're sending it to the tag because every day or so we're going to resave all the tags and recalculate all of these.
Right.
Okay.
So go. And I'm sorry. You know, it really should be tag count, not tag cloud.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I wasn't thinking about the fact. Yeah.
I don't think naming things is really that important.
Well,
Naming is the hardest thing.
it is.
I joke.
Tag count. There we go. So.
But anyway.
Okay, but if we already know it's entry, let's just keep on going. So go edit the tag count again.
Mm-hmm.
So go down, and then basically you're going to do output craft.entries. And then do you want to scope it at all, like just to a certain section or anything like that, in terms of like?
To characters.
Okay, so do your section characters dot related to.
Actually, I think it's tags. Entry
Oh,
was the
tags.
example with entry, and they use category or user global set for.
No, it's simply craft.entries. You're on the right track. So basically what we want to save here is we want to save the total number of entries related to the current tag in our scope. So related to tag. I'm pretty sure that'll work.
And this refers to our current tag or our current entry.
Yeah, and you can show field is basically like you in this context you would only have that enabled for like debugging purposes, like if you want to see what the current value is in the control panel.
I see.
But it's not an editable field, so you only put it there if you really want others to be able to see it from in there. So I mean you can keep it enabled just so we have that context, but yeah. So if you click save, so now you've got your thing. Go and edit like a single tag.
Oh, the tag itself or an entry?
Yeah, go. So go to blah blah blah's entry again, and like double click on lawyer or blog, anything, doesn't matter. Just click save. And now when that goes away, double click on it again. Oh, go back to the field settings. I think we missed a total there, the total function.
Oh, right.
Dot total.
The method or just like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all right. Now do that whole thing again.
And then we'll save. And now we have a magical count. We have 4 lawyers in this list. That's sweet.
So it works. So we've got the thing working. So now the only thing left is to create the script that resaves all tags. So go to, well, then there's also the templating. But let's do the tag thing first. So go to your web root, wherever index.php is.
Mm-hmm.
Create it. create a new file in there. Let's call it update tags or resave tags.php. PHP tag, namespace craft, $app equals, and then in a quote, do // craft / app in quotes.
Craft.app.
App slash.
Oh, right.
Sorry. Craft / app / bootstrap.php. Lowercase b.
This isn't the Twitter bootstrap.
And after that, do $app, then the arrow, tasks, plural, arrow, create task with a capital T, and then in parentheses, do a quote, resave element with capital R, capital E, capital R as well, comma, and then we can put a little description here, so just in quotes do like resaving tags. This is for you, so whatever, yeah. And then comma, and then do an array.
Old school or new?
It depends on your web server. It does not matter to me. And then, let's see. Hang on, let me pull up the actual tasks. I'm not totally sure. Let's see. Resave task element. All right. So the array is going to have two keys. One of them is element type, lowercase e, and a capital T. And then pass that and do a string of capital tag, singular with a capital T.
Equal sign, though, in that arrow.
No, he's got it right.
He does?
Yeah. So element type is set to tag with a capital T.
Oh, sorry. Got it.
And then the next one is, the next key is going to be criteria.
Oh, it was my screen. I scaled it up. I couldn't see the bottom part of the equal sign.
And then criteria, you know what? No, you don't need criteria because you just want to resave all of them, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
So no criteria needed. That's it. And then you can, afterwards, actually that's it. Just leave it like that.
I mean, arguably, because you're having it apply only to the characters section, you might have it only resave the ones from the characters section. But that's
yeah, I mean, so if you had multiple tag groups and you only wanted to calculate tags for one of them, then you could specify, group equals characters or whatever.
And then this is what I'd run from command line and just tie to cron.
So yeah, I mean, basically, like the long term, you would want to create a cron job that pings this script every 24 hours or something like that. But for now, just load it in your browser. You don't need,
make him do it manually.
Yeah, we'll just have the browser call it.
Every day, Matt, set a little alarm in your iPhone, and every day just go to your computer and reload the page.
That's cron. Oh, what happened?
Do you get the URL right?
I believe so. Resavetags.php. I did, and I get a 500 error.
Permissions, possibly?
Oh, could be.
Oh, it's a 500, but that wouldn't have been the craft 500 error, so.
Could be the file permissions. Font size if you want to share.
All right, sorry.
What does details say in there? In Chrome.
Probably nothing. Cool.
Oh man, too much. Try.
Create task on a non-object. Line 7. So did I not bootstrap that right? Actually, yeah. How is app even?
That just okay. So you want a really old version of craft?
Oh, could be.
Like how old is this? From 2014?
No. This is a more recent
if it's anything after 2.4, it should work.
2.6.2776.
That should be fine. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're missing the word require.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. It's app equals require and then pass that into require.
Got it. I have to spell it.
Live coding is fine.
There we go. I'm used to seeing those. Okay, let's look at that in the browser. Or it doesn't work in the command. Oh, because the. Okay, so let's see if that worked actually. I ran it in the browser.
That looks like it worked. So reload the control panel. Show the sidebar.
Oh yeah, I just saw it. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. So cut one frame of it. So you're done. Now let's go to the template.
This is fantastic. Cool.
I feel like if this were a movie, this would be the plot twist. We're not going to help you fix your code. We're going to throw it out.
So now basically, like, you're just grabbing tags like normal, like craft.tags, and then pass in whatever you want.
Let me just somberly do that.
Yeah, you could just disable that for now.
Nah, I think it's if the theme is we're parting from work that doesn't need to be, then.
All right, hang on. This is very unsemantic for the record. Tag entries. You want to get tags. Tags.
Oh right, and we want
tags. Dot
group.
Whatever.
Or
if you want.
I mean, I don't even need it because there's only one.
For now, let's leave it out, and then I would do dot order and pass in your field handle, so tag count. And then do space DESC.
Oh, right. This is wonderful. Okay, so I guess that's
it. And I guess So I guess one disadvantage here is you've lost the whole scale thing and used.
Yeah, we've lost the scale.
We don't know so you'll have to just figure out what that means on your own.
I got it.
Marion,
you resurrect your plugin.
Exercise.
No, you can resurrect your plugin and have it compute the scale for you.
That's insulting.
So one thing you could do, was the scale based on the smallest and largest tag counts?
Let's see, I deleted it, so I think so.
It's been 2 years.
So yeah, what I was doing, I had max and min scale,
right.
And then just counted the uses, so minimum and maximum uses, and then I used this.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like starting with what's the lowest. It wasn't figuring out what the delta is of lowest to highest tag counts and basing it on that or anything.
Actually, it was because that's where the scale came from. And then you just give it numbers that represent the beginning and end.
Okay, so I guess what you would do then, you just have to basically reproduce this logic in Twig.
Mm-hmm.
You can really easily get, you could start with set, least used tag equals, craft.tags, dot order, tag count, ascending. Or just assume that the least user is going to have a 0 tag count. It's up to you.
I see.
You could get the first and the last one out of your tags and see what their counts are.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. Marion, killing me. Too much common sense.
I can even manage that, I think.
So the only thing
the
here...
The last one's going to have a count of 0.
Yes, you're right. So unless every single one's being used.
Yeah, we can count on that.
So the only issue here is that's actually going to create 2 extra queries that you don't need. So after doing dot limit, I would do dot find. Or actually, no, that's not even necessary. You can get that out. Isn't there a twig filter for getting the first and the last elements of an array?
Oh, and
bar first, bar last.
Not dot. Oh yeah, just pipe first. Does that exist?
Yeah, it's just pipe first and pipe last.
Okay, there you go. So, and you could even just do first instead of first tag, do biggest tag count equals tags pipe first,
Not really the count though, because
Yeah, and then after pipe first, you could do dot tag count.
Wait a minute. Not
parentheses around that whole.
okay. Thank you.
Do you?
I can put a dot here.
Yeah. I don't think you need parentheses though.
Well, in order to be readable.
All right.
Otherwise, we just have an argument about whether or not you need them.
You're saying that I could theoretically do this?
What syntax is this?
So pipe first will give you the first element of the tagged array.
Yeah.
Dot tag count will give you the tag count property of the first element in the tags array.
This just feels like dark magic.
The reason that I don't think the parentheses are actually necessary, although I will admit, yes, they definitely add to the readability.
Yeah.
They're not necessary because filters in Twig will only apply to like whatever came directly before it. Like you can't do you can't do a dot on a filter or anything. So Twig will just figure this out either way of what you really meant.
I didn't know you could combine dot syntax with like after filters. I've always just
it's just an expression, So like basically, as Twig is parsing this, as soon as it gets to the first filter, it's going to take the value that came before it, apply it to the first filter, and then return that, and then you can continue doing more logic after that.
The filter is considered part of the variable it's modifying.
As a reformed C programmer, I feel uncomfortable without the parentheses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I would say this: either add the parentheses or delete the spaces, because technically you're not supposed to put spaces around the pipe.
What?
Oh no!
I mean, it's okay. Twig forgives you on it, but technically you're not supposed to.
I'm just so uncomfortable with all
I would say, okay, not technically. Fabian prefers that you don't.
Maybe you should raise the font size so you're more comfortable with the syntax.
I actually do it in the weirdest way. I have no space before. I have a space before the pipe, but not after.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So here's his reasoning for why you should not have spaces. Let's say but right before the word tags, and after the opening parenthesis there, do okay. I don't know what this is a really bad example, but just do 5 space times space tags. This is this would definitely be an error, but the point is to demonstrate why. So if you do 5 times tags.
The number 5, not 5 spaces.
Oh,
not 5 spaces.
I'm sorry what you're doing. Okay. So now put the spaces in there.
Where? Oh, here.
Around the pipe. So in this syntax, it's not really clear just when you're reading it. It looks like you're going to get a first filter applied to the result of 5 times tags, right?
Mm-hmm.
Needs more parentheses.
Well, so that's the thing. If you wanted it, then you could add parentheses around it. But the reality is, even though in that case it looks like 5 times tags would get executed first, and then the result of that would be passed to the pipe filter. In reality, the filters always only apply to whatever value came directly before it. So in this case, it would actually do 5 times, and then whatever the result of tags type first is. If that makes sense. So that's why they say don't put spaces, just because it makes it a little more clear what's actually going to happen. But again, it's a preference thing. It's a Fabian preference thing, and knowing Fabian, he might make it required down the road or something.
Breaking everybody's Twig code.
Just because he's a grumpy old Frenchman that likes everything to be his way. So
that would be absolutely awful. If he broke everyone's templates.
Yeah. Someone would Twig.
I could see I would have to add a new Twig perversion to allow you to have spaces.
Yeah, you could do a what's it called, node map reader or whatever it's called that could add the spaces or remove the spaces automatically. Anyway, so the only issue here is if there's a chance that tags is an empty array, you'll have to do the whole null coalescing operator or whatever, just to be forgiving about that. But I think for now we're going to skip that part. And just
Got a comment.
say this is pretty
To
good.
do. Deal with empty array.
Yeah, exactly. Deal with possibility of empty array. Okay, so now you have the info you need to create your scale logic. I'm thinking, like, can we just skip the scale part for now? Or I guess, like, I don't know. If you really want to like figure it out, like you produce that piece.
Well, if we all sat and watched me privately come up with this the first time I did it, I think we'd be well into the afternoon and disappointed.
Yeah. So
humanity.
Undo the deletion you just did, and let's just like here's like a really simple thing we can do: font size equals, and then just do like tag count.
This is really neat.
This is going to be ridiculous.
Huge.
Nah. Divided by. Actually, what am I doing? Count.
What is the point of this title?
It was just so I could hover over this thing and see what was going on.
Oh.
Okay, so let's see what happens.
Boom.
Delusional up there. Okay. Wow. Cool. A lot of chicken as well.
Okay, so why is
make it the count divided by 10 or something and see how that looks.
In the
Not in the title, in the actual.
If you're not specific, I'm just gonna. All right.
There we go.
That's a little better.
All right, so then the question is like, why are we not ordering by tag count as it's supposed to be?
Oh, that's a good question.
We didn't do that. That's why.
No, we did.
We did.
We did.
Did we change tag count?
That's the right field handle, right?
Yep.
I mean, we changed the what it's called in the to humans. Do we change what it's called to?
Yeah, well, we must have because we're using that same variable to access the value.
Yeah, otherwise we get no data.
All right, I guess this is turning into a craft bug code review. It's probably a craft bug. Because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. Seems like you're specifying that correctly.
Should we live submit a bug report?
You could try to just change it to alphabetical or something.
Well, that's gonna.
Oh, you know what it is? No, you know what it is? It's the fact that tag count is a string.
Oh, and not an.
So it's ordering by tag count correctly, but it's not ordering them numerically. It's ordering them alphabetically.
Right. So can we tell preparse to save an integer, or how would we resolve
that? That would be a really good setting. I do think MySQL has a way to to order by in a specific thing, but I'm not sure if it'll work with field handles. We can try. So people order by. Let's figure out the correct way to reference it.
I don't think you can get preparse to do a number field there.
Yeah, it'd be a good feature request though. Like, say, look, I'm always going to be outputting a number. Please save this as a number. For now, the really lazy solution would be like you just manually change it and never resave that field again. But okay, so that's a bad idea.
I don't know that wouldn't work either.
Okay, so do in the order thing. Do cast. Hang on, where'd you go? Oh, there you go. So order, and then type cast, and then tag count as try integer. Yeah.
Not like.
Nice. We'll go out. So what's the problem here?
Oh,
what was the? Okay, we didn't use. So let me just see what the actual SQL ended up being. Okay, so it actually worked. So integer just isn't the right answer. So it's try unsigned.
That feels right. Sweet. That's success.
Boom. It would be. I mean, the problem is like this is adding a little more overhead to MySQL because it's not optimized to order those things by integers. It has to do extra work to like type convert. So
I have a duct tape solution to that.
Your new
Wrap it in
plugin.
cache tags.
Your new plugin can be a fork of the pre-parse field.
There you go. Wrap it in cache tags. Come on, you can do it.
All right.
There you go. And then all the way down.
We can't do that. Caching is not a way to solve performance problems. The way to solve
It is all at once.
Only for scalability.
Yeah, I think it's a feature request on pre-parse.
Yeah, I think so too. Like just like having a way in the field settings to specify this should be saved as an integer or decimal or something like that. But yeah, this is good. So now like all you'd have to do now is kind of reproduce your scaling logics to figure out what the actual scale should be. But I think we've demonstrated that it's possible with just a little bit of twin code. So this is definitely more involved than simply clicking install on a plugin in terms of setup, but the end result is this is going to be totally scalable.
Well, this is really helpful for me because the goal wasn't necessarily to figure out how to make I made a plugin to solve a problem, and we're solving the problem in a craftier way. Which, if you're just joining us, means delete your plugin, have Brandon think through various options, pick the best one, and then use the pre-parse field. I think that's wonderful.
I have a question about the Bootstrap thing we did out in the index folder. So you're reinstantiating Craft app there. How much overhead is that, or how much can you do that before you, or does it matter how much you do that? I don't
You're not reinstantiating. This Craft was never loaded normally in this request.
Yeah, it's a totally new request.
This is going around. This is circumventing index.php. So you're like what you did right here is something that like happens down the road further if you use index.php.
Okay, so this is happening on every request.
This is happening in the same way. It's just abstracted more. This is a little bit more straight to like just give me like. So basically, index.php, the fundamental difference is instead of loading Bootstrap directly, it's loading craftapp/index.php directly, which is like a wrapper for Bootstrap, which is itself a wrapper for the application. So you can see like down here, like do not add below this line. We're tacking on app/index.php. And if you open that file, go to craftapp/index.php in your file directory, all the way at the bottom.
Oop, wrong one. There we go.
So like it's basically doing a whole bunch of setup stuff for like different scenarios of why you might be loading index.php. But if you go all the way to the very bottom of this file, you'll see here it is. It's doing the same required bootstrap.php, and then the one thing it's doing additionally is calling run, which basically now turns Craft into like now I'm going to take over the request and do what I want with it kind of thing. So that's when all the routing goes into play and all that kind of stuff. So without calling the run function, you're basically getting the Craft application, but it isn't making any assumptions on how it should handle the request. So you're free to call services and stuff as you wish without worrying about conflicting with the existing routing, because there is none.
Okay, and then this gets loaded in some different contexts. I believe some of those different contexts are as a web app and from the command line, or am I off?
Yeah, so the command line, I forget how much we got done with Craft 2, but in Craft 3, both the command line and the web request both go through the same Bootstrap file.
Okay.
And basically, like, just set the context to something different so that they get routed differently.
Okay. So that was my question. In the case that Matt's running a cron to trigger this from the command line or wherever.
Yeah, crons still use an HTTP request, though.
Okay.
So basically, a cron job just is telling cron to ping a specific URL every X minutes or hours or whatever.
So Brandon,
this runs a shell script every shell command.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you could. Okay, in that case, you would have to do this. You could take the same logic and you could write a shell command that like a custom shell command that loads this file. And,
Just use curl.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. I would write the cron job to have the shell command that uses, I forget what it is.
Just write in the cron job. You can just have it curl the URL. I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and in that case, it becomes an HTTP request.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can you could do it either way. You could either use curl to create an HTTP request to go through the regular file this way, or you could write a cron job that pings where the shell script actually loads up like a console application for Craft and does the same create task thing from there.
Okay.
But it hardly matters because the overhead of this thing that happens maybe once a day.
Well, it could be a good idea simply because if you do the direct console application approach, you're not getting Apache involved or Nginx or whatever. Like you're going straight to PHP.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's not taking up one of your pipes, and it's not acting like an actual web server request.
Okay, so you might have like different limits on how long the thing is willing to run. And
yeah, exactly. You could have that request go on forever. And, configure. You wouldn't be going through Apache with its own restraints on the request and all that kind of stuff. So.
And I guess it would work whether you're in, development or production or staging as well, right? Because it wouldn't care about the URL. If you made a console command.
Well, and you could put the whole script above webroot. So like right now, one issue is like anyone can ping that URL.
Right.
It's why you can
just let spam bots do it for you.
Put
it at wp.admin and just let spam bots do it for you.
There you go.
So
actually, that would save you the trip of having to write the cron job. Let the spam bots be the ones initiating it for you.
There you go. Hey, Brandon, I've got a serious question about that. I agree with you, obviously, that the cache tags are for scalability, not performance. But I mean, if he did end up having like thousands of tags, wouldn't it be more performant if we did actually wrap that in a cache tag? I mean, rather than having it go through all of those entries.
Well, I'm assuming he's not going to display thousands of tags in one tag cloud because then eventually you hit like a point where the page just gets ridiculous. Like even if it loaded instantly, it's just ugly.
Yeah, that's true.
Get started there too, and I can think of a lot of words to describe Bluth characters.
Well, it would be interesting, Matt, if you profiled the page as is and then wrapped it in cache tags and profiled it and see which one you had fewer requests and which one was quicker, and then just go with whatever one. Yeah.
The cache tag will be quicker for sure, especially when you add the scaling logic in and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I'm not opposed to using the cache tag in this context, but I guess my thing is like, don't use. I mean, because ultimately, like all scalability problems come down to a performance problem as well, right? Like, you're just, I guess my point is, it's not a way to, like, if you've got just this request that's taking 10 seconds to load, kind of thing.
Right.
Like you need to fix that before wrapping it in cache tags. Like,
caching a wrong doesn't make a right.
Yeah, get it down to what would be a reasonable amount of time to make to load without a cache tag, and then you could add it just to get that extra little boost for most people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because all that's doing is kicking the problem down the road.
Yeah, you're just making a hot potato site instead of fixing
the first guy that loads it sucks for you.
Well, and you know what? The worse the load time gets, the less it's just one guy.
Yeah.
If it takes 10 seconds to load and you've got a high traffic site, you've got 5,000 people that are waiting around because every time, the next request comes in, it's like making it even slower for everyone else that's still trying to run through this cache tag. You get all kinds of ridiculous things. So.
May I bring us back to the cron real quick before we move too far along? I come from the similar background to Matt, more on the design side, and something, I don't know what it is, something about a cron and the forever quality of it just intimidates me. I'm setting something forever, I don't even know where I can check on it.
Most hosts will have
somebody that's more of a designer. I think we presented them an interesting solution here, but there's a giant barrier to entry, which is now you have to go figure out how to write a cron and monitor a cron. What are more experienced people's, or what are all of your thoughts on how do you make something like that possible for somebody who doesn't have those skills, or do they just need to hire somebody to help them out at that point?
So everyone that we're talking to here has at least figured out how to get a web server running, and that's a lot more complicated than getting a cron server running. So I would say
True.
it's not. You're not talking about a real issue. Like maybe you don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the syntax is off the top of my head because I've created about 3 cron jobs in my entire life, so I don't have it memorized. But so
unfortunately, I have it memorized.
This is something that you read a Stack Exchange post. Here's exactly here's the answer. Here's what you do. And a lot of times you're talking about hosts that have cPanel or something like that, and it's just there's a GUI for creating them. There's no, and like this isn't something you really care to have running locally, anyways. You might want to do it locally once just to test it, but really the only place where the cron would exist is on the server, and the server probably has a UI for setting it up.
And so then if, say, you inherit, what if you're a developer and you inherit a site and you don't know this cron is running on it, and then something goes wrong with the tag cloud? How do you know?
Don't you do site documentation?
Yeah, it should be in the docs.
We inherit a lot of sites that don't have any documentation.
Well, I mean, okay, but
I'm fine with best practices recommended here. It's not the reality of inheriting websites, though.
I would say make it the reality. Like every time you make a site, make sure that you're also doing developer documentation so that if someone else takes over, they know exactly what they need to know to get up to speed with it. Like there should be a README file in your GitHub repo saying here's how to get up to speed.
That's absolutely true. And then the flip side of it is whenever you inherit a site, you have to go rummage around and see what's in the cron tab.
Yeah, but those are billable hours.
Yeah. And I would say I totally agree with what Brandon is saying. I mean, every site that I do, I make a wiki for it. And what I find more often than not is you're not even writing the documentation for the next person. You're writing it for yourself. Because you'll come back in a year and you won't remember where everything is, and you'll be like, oh, thank God that I documented all this.
Yeah. And to ease this, or well, I don't know if ease is the right word, but to make this particular concern moot, Ben, one thing I'll say is that there's a pretty good chance, I don't know if it's going to be Craft 3, but definitely a future version of Craft is going to basically require you to have a cron job running. If you want
for the control panel to be.
We want to move background tasks to something that's cron specific.
Nice.
And basically have a cron job. You'd be just like expected to have a cron job set up that pings the thing every minute.
And this is like the other thing about a cron. And I've created a few crons in my life too. But I do work with a lot of people and different projects, and I think there's a general knowledge gap there, and it's not as simple as just write documentation. I think there's a knowledge gap there around it in a lot of places, but there's also restriction on permissions when creating crons, right? You can't just create a nice UI in Craft for us to create a cron.
No, right. There's definitely some server setup. I've never heard of even a shared host that wouldn't have some level of cron support, though.
I've seen it on GoDaddy.
Okay. Come on.
Hey, man.
I wouldn't even call it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still have had to deal with it, but...
Yeah, I set myself up for that one. You're right. I'm sure that they do all kinds of horrible things.
I feel like there is room for like a cron service that just curls a URL that has an interface and would probably be very... I mean, you could almost set up pingdom. I don't want to admit whether or not I did that on a Pagoda Box site because I was being really cheap and wanted to keep it alive, but... I mean, they're...
Yeah, so that's another thing. So worst case scenario, you could offload it to a third-party server that pings a URL every minute.
Yeah, actually, you could probably even use, like, Uptime Robot if you wanted.
Yeah.
You know? Where you could just say, well, the URL I want you to check is this, fancy URL and set its time to do it every 24 hours, and it'll ping it for you.
I would love to inherit that site where I learned that there was also some other third-party service that was pinging the server that the thing was on and being
running out of the developer's basement.
I'm all for creative solutions, but it's really a mess when you start handing projects between people who don't have a full history of why decisions were made, and these decisions are made by people with limited knowledge. Everybody has limited knowledge in some way about what they're trying to do. So.
Well, I mean, I think part of the problem, Ben, is that a lot of people that are coming at this are designers turned developers, and maybe they never had like the sysadmin kind of step in the middle. And sometimes you need a guy around like that can do that kind of DevOps stuff for you. I mean, there are
The other part of the problem is there's no designers on Stack Exchange answering the cron questions. It's some person who writes all lowercase and
he says read the effing manual, probably.
yeah, with a link to some 400-page like WC3 spec on the issue. And
yeah, why are you asking this dumb
the answer's
question?
right here.
Why are you asking this dumb question? Go look at the spec.
There's no one like that in our game. Come on. Those guys aren't using craft.
Hey Matt, we've
Hi,
got
Leia. Welcome.
Leia, who I believe was the source of the question here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, that's hilarious. Awesome.
Yeah. So Leia, we solved the problem that Matt wrote the plugin for by deleting his plugin.
Turns out the best way forward is just to nuke it and try something else.
Well, I don't think the pre-parse build existed back then, so.
Thank you. That's generous of you.
All right. Well, thank you for entertaining that direction.
Yeah. All right. This was fun.
I think it was a great result because it was so unexpected, and it shows how sometimes you need to reframe the problem to come up with the right solution. And hats off to Marion. That was a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Before Leia, you just joined. Did you have a question or anything before we wrap things up?
She mutes.
Hi, can you hear me? I like this interface.
Yes. No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Not really. I just wanted to see what you guys were talking about the tags because Andrew like pinged me about it.
Yep.
So like, what was the general gist of that? Like.
Oh my goodness.
We deleted.
Sorry, guys. I just saw that and I'm like, okay, I want an update.
This is like my wife after we watch a movie. She's like, "What just happened?
Yeah.
Can you tell me?" So I'll give you a quick summation. We went into this looking at Matt's plugin for the tag cloud, and he wanted to see, what he could do better, how to optimize it, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Marion realized that there was a way to do it by not using a plugin at all that ends up being a lot easier and a lot more performant. So
okay.
Yeah, the end result is we deleted Matt's plugin. He cried a little bit. He's a little heartbroken, but came up with
a gist of this? Like a snippet of code somewhere?
We should update that Stack Exchange answer with a summary of everything that happened here.
That would be cool.
Yeah. How about an all lowercase sentence and a link to this?
Huh. Well, I actually pasted something on group chat. So, what about this plugin that this guy named Phil Burney created called Popular Tags? Because I was actually looking through that Stack Exchange and someone posted a comment like, I don't know, a few months ago, and this guy actually created another plugin, like Tag Cloud plugin. So I don't know if that, I don't know what the code is yet, but I haven't installed it.
There's no record. There's no record, so there's no database.
Yeah, so he's probably doing the same problems.
He's got a custom query. I was just looking at it.
Yeah, he does. It is more of a customized query and happening in the model there.
Okay.
So the solution that Marion and Brandon came up with, I think it's probably going to be a better one. Yeah, if that's the case.
I can't take any credit for that, for the record.
Well, you did the live coding on it.
Through my what's the word? My surrogate.
Dictation.
Yeah. Your puppet.
I like the first one. I think for me, this was really helpful because I think it's like with all this stuff, we got to a specific solution that I'll probably try and get the points for on Stack Exchange. But I think it was useful to see the talking through the problem. I mean, Brandon's pretty familiar with craft, and we all have different levels of familiarity with it. But talking through the problem and just getting a sense of like everybody has different pieces in mind was really helpful for me because the problem solving is what I'm most interested in. Not as much the solution, and I think this is like a great example of that.
Yeah. You gonna work this into the next season of Better Call Saul?
I'll think about it. Yeah. Saul's gonna be a web developer.
Great. All right, shall we wrap up?
Yeah, our code review ended up in no code.
Well, there's a little code.
Yeah, less than we started with, which is nice.
Yeah.
Quid
And a
code.
feature request for pre-parse.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
quid
right.
code is a feature request.
Yeah, that would be a good feature request to be able to cast the results of the pre-parse field for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, even if you were storing a string, like it'd be nice to be able to have control over whether it's a text column versus a varchar,
Right.
All that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
yeah, or maybe someone should fork it.
Pull request, really.
Yeah, pull request, exactly. That's what I meant. Okay.
All right. All right. Well, then, thanks everybody for coming out. This has been a code review. Thanks, Matt, for bringing the code to talk about. If anybody out there would like to join us for a future code review, whether it's on a plugin, on front-end templating, or how you've pulled together the content model of your site or anything, drop us a note. We'd like to do more of these. And this is a weekly event. Next week, I'll have to be canceling. My wife just completed her PhD, and we have a little celebrating to do. But,
You can have her on. We could
yeah.
ask her. We could ask her educational
Have
questions.
a second defense. I'm sure she'd love that.
I'm sure that's the last thing she wants to do.
Great. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. Until next time, we'll be back with more about craft and all that we can find there.
Awesome.
Served up craft.
And Matt, I've got to chastise you, Matt. You said that you deleted the code, but I saw you bring it up again. Now
It's
listen,
not that
no. When you break up with a girl, you delete her number from your phone. You don't leave it laying around so that when you come home drunk, you can open the code up and try and fit. Please, just delete it,
It's
trash
off
it.
the site, Andrew. I'm not throwing my phone away.
Oh, you're clinging. You're hanging on, man. You got to just delete it. You got to be done with it.
It's not as simple as that anymore, Andrew. There's always backblaze and all kinds of.
Yeah, let me do that privately. I don't think we're breaking up on that thing now, right?
Burn it in effigy in public. It's the only way.
My neighbors would be like, "What the hell is Taggregate? And what's wrong?"
That's what you get for picking like a kitschy name, a hipster name. They deserve to die. Sorry.
All right, folks. I'm going to hit stop broadcasting.
Wait a minute. That was broadcast?
Yeah, that was.
Bye.
I thought we were off air already.
We're off here in a moment. Have a great
Alfred,
day.
we're thinking about this very carefully.
Oh, crap.